Yesterday, we concluded discussing the conclusion, academic essay conclusion. How do we go about it, and so on and so on. We have looked at several things which are involved in writing a conclusion. So today I said we're going to start looking at the referencing. When we talk about referencing, what comes to your mind? What is referencing? What happens in referencing? What do we do there? What do I expect to do there? Just to give me just a clue of your understanding. When you come across that writing, and then they say you must also do the referencing. What happens there? What do you understand? Yes, Ellen.
Good evening again. My understanding is when we are writing our essays, if we use information from a published source, we have to credit that source. Yes, and that is the referencing.
Okay. Thanks for the input. Anyone else? Addition or different view of your understanding of referencing? Tshepo, welcome. What do you understand about referencing? I'm coming to you, Mangele and Tovis. I just want to pick up your mind in this.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I think it's not just when you are referencing someone's statement, it can also be an idea just to acknowledge, to give acknowledgement of who is the original owner of the certain sentence, idea, or statement. I think that is when you are referencing.
Smangel, what's your take?
When you're writing your essay, you're using people's resources, then you must reference them at the end of your essay, because it is not your own writing or your own wording that you used to write the essay. Yeah.
Tobisi, what's your take?
Good evening, Doc. Good evening, colleagues. Referencing, I would say it's whereby you are acknowledging someone's writing, where you have picked some of the words that has been mentioned on your paragraph or on your sentence. Then you just reference, maybe if you have taken that sentence from somewhere, then you acknowledge as to where you got that sentence from. Thank you.
Okay. I've got a little bit of your view in terms of what referencing is all about. What are you expected to do when you talk about referencing? And at least assist me to gauge the level of your understanding of what do we mean by referencing. So about that. So in terms of our learning outcomes, I expect us to demonstrate the understanding of referencing, understanding the different styles of referencing, because there are styles of referencing. So we need to go through them and see how each style contribute towards a particular work that you have done or you have written, and so on. Yesterday, if you can recall, while I was introducing what we're going to do from today until the end of May, when I was talking about referencing, I entered a statement to say this is one of the most feared part of research, part of essay writing. When we talk about referencing, you recall that. And many people, many researchers, they will tell you when it comes to referencing, you have to pay special attention because it's something that many people are struggling with. So as a starting point, ladies and gentlemen, I have just picked up a statement uttered by Dr. Nudelman, who is a lecturer somewhere. She said she was addressing a group of researchers. Actually, she was training them, workshopping them on how to reference. Then came a time where before she started, she tried to break the ice by bringing in the people who were in attendance for them to try and say something concerning the whole thing that the whole work that they were going to do, and their understanding in terms of the processes that has to be followed. And this is what she said. I quote, "I run lots of academic writing workshops." My apologies. I should have just put inverted commas there to show that I'm quoting her. I'm sorry about that. I run lots of academic writing workshops. I always start with an icebreaker, where I ask participants what to talk about, their feelings around academic writing, what scares them most. Out of 10, 9, they gave the answer as saying the most scary thing or part of writing is referencing. That is the most feared thing, referencing. Then she said, I get it. People are taught that the consequence of not referencing is failing or punishment. At the same time, the whole process of referencing is epic. So it is a real struggle to figure it out. In other words, the whole thing, the whole process of referencing is complex. So it is a real struggle to figure it out. That is what she said. So it concurs with my statement that I uttered yesterday when I was introducing this topic that we're going to discuss from today. Right. So referencing, as you were giving me different descriptions, explanation, and definition of what referencing is and what referencing is all about. Now I've picked some few, as usual, some few description and definition of what a reference might be. There are so many others out there, but I've just picked some few. Referencing is how you acknowledge the source of the information you have used, which are referred to in your work. And one of you, if not all of you, you mention that in different ways. Now, it helps to make clear to the reader how you have used the work of others to develop your own ideas and arguments, sorry. Because you remember in our discussions about the writing processes from the introduction up until to the conclusion, we have seen that you cannot develop a particular document based on your own opinion alone. You need to have found some information from other people who have written something on the same topic. So that's why we are talking about it helps to make clear to the reader how you have used the work of others. So the work of others comes so ideal in the whole process, as well as their arguments of a particular topic. How do they argue? Number 2, referencing is the technique. Very important. It's a technique. That's why it's so scary. That's why it's so difficult to many people. Why? Because it's a technique. A technique is something that it becomes so special. You use it, you apply it, to assist you to achieve something in writing. So referencing is a technique. You have to learn it. It's a skill that you have to learn it, fortunately. It is not given by birth. When you're born, you distinct. It is there in you. You have to learn it along the way, along the process. So it's a technique you use in academic writing to tell the reader the sources you have used to develop your thinking. Because I will find it out, even if you don't say it, when I'm reading your work that you have written, somehow I'll come to realize that this voice I'm hearing is not your voice. Because sometimes you write, you bring in your voice, then I'll be able to pick it up. This is your voice, but this one is not your voice. But then I'll be asking myself a question. If it's not your voice, whose voice is this? Because you never mentioned that you're using somebody's voice. So that's where it becomes critical to reference, to acknowledge that I have used somebody's work. This is not my work. So it becomes so handy. You know. Then, for example, imagine you are reading a journal article and you see something super interesting that you think is relevant to the thing that you are writing about at the time. You can't just go and steal the idea. That would be intellectual theft and unethical. Very important. Many a times people use information as if there is their own information and it's not their information. And it's very unethical in the sense that, let's say you are writing something that you have to submit for marks. And the reader, the examiner picked it up that you're using information which is not yours and you never acknowledge. You are going to be disqualified. If it's a matter of giving you marks, you're going to get very low marks. And you happen to fail for something which you would have avoided because you have stolen somebody's ideas. So that becomes unethical, and an intellectual theft takes place in that process. Then you have to acknowledge that. But you can use the idea if you tell the reader where you got it. The issue is you are at liberty to use any other person's information as long as you are able to acknowledge where you got that information, who wrote that information, if where you got it there was a source, because there are some materials, there's some resources which you might find that there's no source where who wrote the information and so on and so on. But as we discuss along the way, you will see what do you do with that kind of information where there is no writer, there's no author. How do you go about it? We'll deal with that at a later stage as we continue in the upcoming days. There are only two things you need to be doing when you are referencing. Very, very, very important. There are two things. These two things will be broken down along the way when we are discussing during May. I'll try to bring them down so that you have an understanding. But there are two. One is in-text citations. In-text citations. When we talk about in-text citation, ladies and gentlemen, what happens there? How do you cite there in text? When we talk about in-text citation, what do we mean actually? Let me just rephrase it that way. All the way to good evening and welcome. Please take me through. When we talk about in-text citation, what do we mean? Mtovis, what's your understanding of that?
Thank you, Doc. In-text citation, I believe it's whereby you are taking your reader to exactly where you got the information. Like you will mention after your sentence, you'll mention that you've got this from Mtobisi, then not sure if it's a colon or a comma, then you say book, maybe a year the book was written, then colons and the page number where you got that information, where you are taking the reader straight to where you extracted that information. Thank you.
In-text citation is the referencing that you are making to a source that you have used within the body of the essay after paraphrase or after quoting.
Yeah, we missed you. You're breaking a little bit on the last part of your explanation. Can you repeat that? Repeat that one.
Referencing as an in-text citation is the referencing to a source that you include within the body of your essay after paraphrasing or quoting something from a source.
Yeah, now I get you, because you were breaking. So this last part I couldn't hear. Now I got it. Thank you so much. So the two colleagues, they've just indicated that this is a citation that is done within your writing, while you are busy writing in a particular sentence that perhaps you indicate that I got this information from so at least I see you have got knowledge with regard to that. So in text citation, you tell the reader in the text you are writing who the author of the text is and what date it was published, as they were indicating, the colleagues were indicating. So briefly, I'll start to understand that, okay, this information doesn't come from the author. It comes from another source. And this source is so and so. And this particular article, this particular book, whatever the case might be, was written on this particular year, and so on and so on. And somebody even mentioned the issues around the date, that you can even write the date, I mean the page, so to say, that in this particular book, it is from this page, and so on and so on. So it's easier for me as the reader to follow up, to check the validity of that particular information that you are mentioning in your writing. So it becomes so easy. A reference list, that's the second part of it. Remember, you need to do when you are referencing. The first one is in text. While you are writing, still writing, whatever information that you get, you must make sure that it is documented there where you get it, it's written by who, and so on and so on. Now, the second part is a reference list. A list you include at the end of your writing. That list, the details of all the sources you mentioned in your in-text citation. Now you go back to the whole document, then you acknowledge that you check the information that you have acknowledged that is from so and so, so and so, so and so, and then it is going to be included on your reference list. So don't mind, I'm not going to go into details about the reference list. We're going to discuss it at length as time goes on. Not today, but some other time when we meet. So don't worry about that, because that's something that many people with the work that I've seen, they're making a lot of mistakes. So it needs to be well understood on how you structure it, how does it look like, and so on and so on. So we're still going to do that. There are two main categories of referencing systems: author date and the number system. These two categories, sometimes people, they just confuse them, not understanding how to separate the two. When you begin writing a research of your writing and reference pages, we here for the purpose of tonight, I've brought about 3 of them. These reference styles. Remember when I was alerting you about our what do you call the outcomes. I made mention of that we're going to look at. So I've just picked up some 3 here that we're going to look at, but tonight we'll concentrate in one for us to understand it very well. So these reference styles, which might be assigned to you to use when you are writing a particular document or paper or whatever, or essay. We have got what we call modern language association. In most instances, when we are discussing this thing, I'll be referring to the abbreviation MLA, which refers to Modern Language Association. And we have got the American Psychological Association, and we have got the Chicago referencing style as well. So at the end, we'll look at Harvard style as well. As time goes on, we'll look at Harvard, which I did not include here. So each one has its own set of rules. All of them, they are not using the same set of rules. They use different set of rules. Why so? Because they're not the same as well. And the people who come up with them, they think differently. They're not thinking the same way. There is no need to familiarize yourself with all 3 unless you have to. But you do need to learn at least one if you are in any field involving academic writing. For the purpose of us here, because I want us to understand broadly all of these referencing styles, we're going at all of them. But start with MLA, so that we and then we learn something from it. So if you are writing, what it means is that if you are writing a particular document, you're not going to rely on them. So Modern Language Association stands for we abbreviate as MLA as indicated, and it's a way to document sources used within the paper or within the essay. And this is an international bibliography. It's an essential tool for research in all aspects of modern languages and literature. Available as a researchable online database of more than 3 million records. So you can find it even online, it is there. They've made it available. And the MLA bibliography is used to academics and teachers around the world to find and share their work. So everybody else can use it from different fields, so that they can use it when they are writing their documents and so on and so on, their papers, their essays, and so on and so on. So it's always there. Students at all levels rely on the bibliography to lead them to the journals, books, websites, and other publications they need to succeed in their research projects. So it is everywhere. So it can be used for various reasons. Then the MLA bibliography is compiled by a staff of subject experts at the MLA Office of Bibliography Information Services, and by more than 100 volunteer specialists, our field bibliographers. So there are people who are seated there every day. They even do reviews and so on and so on, make additional information to update this MLA and so on and so on. So updated frequently throughout the year. The MLA bibliography indexes more than 70,000 new items annually. So it's a very big association. And imagine if they leave it without reviewing it, it will be updated. I mean, it will be outdated. So to avoid it being outdated, they need to make sure it is reviewed and updated annually to bring in and include new information which are out there, which will enable the researchers to find citations for the latest scholarship, as well as publications dating back to the 1980s and even the current ones. So that is the main purpose of them making sure that it's updated. So specialists, they sit, and then all the workers within the associations and make sure that they do that. Now, what does the MLA affect? It affects formatting of the paper, in-text citations within the paper, works cited page at the end of the paper. These are the three areas where MLA comes handy in terms of our writing or the essay writing. So it is not only one-sided. It is broadly looking at the whole part of our writing and assist us in terms of acknowledging and recognizing some other people's work and see how do we acknowledge that to avoid being unethical and so on and so on. Why should sources be documented? Perhaps this is a very good question to ask you guys. What do you think we must document these sources? We must put them, we must acknowledge them, must put them down for the reader to see where we got these sources and so on and so on. Why do you think it's necessary to document them? Why do you think it's necessary, ladies and gentlemen, to document them? Write that information down.
Thank you, Doc. So that the reader will know that it is not your voice, but you have done the research on what you have written, so that they will also go back to the original writer of that portion that you have taken from wherever you have taken. Thank you.
Thanks. Tsepo, what's your take?
I think I agree with them, Toby, to say that it allows the reader to also be able to go see the source and maybe read in full to get, if the reader wants the full scope of what you were quoting and not just the piece, and get the full reading. So it helps in that regard.
Perfect. It is so necessary. Always.
It also helps to avoid the plagiarism.
That's very correct. That's very correct. Thank you so much for that addition. Because if you don't acknowledge, we take it, you are claiming that this information is yours. And now it becomes illegal. And that is ethical as well. And it also gives credit to others' work. You acknowledge, you appreciate that so-and-so who wrote this particular article at least assisted me to get something to serve as my evidence of my argument. So you give credit to that person. Give the reader a way of verifying the information within the paper, because it needs to be verified. As one of you have indicated, if I'm reading, then I doubt, as I indicated earlier on, that sometimes you can hear that, sorry, this voice I'm hearing here is not the author's voice, it's somebody's voice. So who is this voice? Whose voice is this one? You know, so I can always verify if you have cited there to see if you have quoted this person correctly and so on and so on. Add strength to the information within the paper, which is the validity. You know, it validify your work. It gives some weight. You know, your writing becomes so strong, and you know, it has got that weight which is needed, because you've got a wealth of information, wealth of argument from other sources, which is also backed up with your own source, I mean your own voice. And when you read that, it's rich. That information is rich, that paper is rich, that essay is rich, because it has got all information from all the corners. And the good thing is, this person did not claim to be using his or her own information, acknowledges that this information I got it from here. So it validates your arguments and your paper and your writing and the information as a whole that you have used. It becomes something that you are proud of. Always too, if I'm not mistaken, she said you also avoid plagiarism, which is very correct. Because if you don't acknowledge, then it means you are saying, this is my information, I own it. I own it. And indeed, in reality, you are not the own or the source of the information. It is not yours. Somebody wrote that thing and then you took it as yours. You know. So then, what is plagiarism in that case? Always, can you lead us on that? I'm sorry to put you in a corner. What is plagiarism then?
Plagiarism is taking someone's work and crediting that person that, okay, this is not my work, this is someone's work. Otherwise, if you don't do that, credit someone, then you are saying that this work is mine and it's not yours. So that's when it starts to be, you are plagiarizing someone's work and then you're saying it's yours.
Okay, thank you so much.
Plagiarism is using someone's ideas, words without acknowledging the original source.
Okay, now you're clear. Now I can hear you clearly. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I agree with the two ladies. If you don't acknowledge the author or whoever the idea or statement came from, and you use it as your own, that is regarded as plagiarism.
So that is plagiarism. Very correct. So you need to acknowledge where you got the information and whose information was that. So the word plagiarism comes from the Latin word plagiarius. Plagiarius, meaning kidnapper. What a meaning. Kidnapper. What are you kidnapping, ladies and gentlemen? In this, with regard to this definition from Latin, what are you kidnapping there? Ellen, what are we kidnapping when we talk about plagiarism? Plagiarism in Latin. What do you think we're kidnapping there?
But other people's ideas and words and work.
That's I'm sorry, Ellen, I'm sorry to disturb you. Continue.
No, that's it, sir. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. So you become a kidnapper when you use somebody's information without acknowledging that person. I think this Latin definition, it is a nice one. And it's when a writer uses someone's language, ideas, or other original, not common knowledge material without acknowledging its source. That's exactly what you're saying. So that is plagiarism. Now, modern language association formatting. The format requirements. How does it explains what how does what are the things that has to be written and so on and so on and so on. I said all those styles, they've got different rules. Remember, you spoke about the Chicago what, the Harvard what, the American Psychological Association. So all of those, they've got different rules. And the format now for MLA is that we use the 12-point Times New Roman font when we are typing. We use double spacing. You know, these things which I'm talking about here, we don't take them seriously when we are busy typing. We take it; they don't count at any time. We just write whatever. You know, it's so disappointing when you are assessing an assignment, you are reading an assignment, and you come across different fonts to start with. Different fonts. Some information, you can see that this was a cut and paste. It's on Roman. New Roman, Times New Roman, some in Arial, you know, and so on and so on. Then you say to yourself, was this document even edited after drafting it? Because if you have edited, you'll be able to pick it up that no. I should have just tried to work on my fonts, but that was not done. The 12 point, some you find that is 11 point, some is 12. A certain paragraph is 12, another one is 11, and so on and so on. Double spacing, find that in some instances it's not double, it's just one. And then you find that sometimes it's 1.5, and so on and so on. So the MLA needs double spacing, 1 inch margins on all sides, last name and page number in the upper right corner, and so on and so on. So these are the rules which pertains to MLA formatting. Front page formatting, in the top left corner, put your name, instructor's name, the course number, and the date, and so on and so on. That is, the titles are centered on the next line. Titles are not in bold, underlined, or italicized. In most instances, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about this information. That is what comes on your cover page when you're writing an assignment. In your knowledge, what should be put on the cover page? What must go to the cover page? Just be sincere and talk about your experiences. What do you usually put there on the cover page? What information are you putting on the cover page? Smangel, share with us your experiences. What do you usually put there on the cover page?
I put my name, student number, the course, yeah.
Only the two. Only your name and your student number. I'm just confirming. I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right.
No, I also put the name of the course, the semester, the unit number for the assignment, and the number of the assignment. Yeah, that is all.
Okay. Ntando, what comes to your cover page when you're writing an assignment?
Good evening, everyone. It's my name, my surname, my student number, the module code, the module name, date of, what's it? The date of the latest submission. What is it called? Now I forgot the name. But also assignment number. Yeah, that's about it.
And some they were not having. Somebody just wrote a student number only. There's no name, nothing. And then when you're marking, now you'll have to struggle when you go to allocate the marks. I mean to record the marks on the mark sheet, and you have to just go through the mark sheet where there are names of students to check for that particular student number, and ultimately you'll come to discover who is this person, and it's so difficult. So that's a page which is very critical and important in your assignment. That's where you need to make sure that that page is clear, because that's the first page that the marker comes across, and you need to impress that particular person. Even if what I'm going to find in the content itself is not something desirable, but if the cover page is attractive, it says something, and it also displays your character, your personality, and so on and so on. So make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you do your best on that one. Titles are centered on the next line. Titles are not in bold or underlined. or italized. And this is we're talking about academic writing. Some people will just make sure that you don't miss her name. She put it in bold or she underlines it, you know, or it's written in italic style, so that you are able to see whose assignment is it. So just write it normally. If you are using the 12 point, you're using the what you call the Arial. The instruction says use the Arial. Do that for all of those things, because the instruction is there. So follow that instruction. So on the MLA, this is the rule that you have to follow. Is now there is what we call in-text citing formatting. In-text citing. We were discussing this. What is in-text citing? And then you try to give me the explanation that this is the acknowledgement that you do while you're still writing, where you write the date, the what you call it, and so on and so on. So dates in MLA are written in this order. You start with the day, the month, and the year. That is the rule that comes from. They want to say, first of all, you start with the day, then the month, then the, and you have said this as well. Paraphrasing, where paraphrasing is done is within the text itself. Summarization or summarizing a source. So paraphrasing is when you take the meaning from another person's ideas and express it in your own words. These ones we have discussed it throughout our discussions. We're talking about paraphrasing previously, but especially when we're discussing the body. And I think even when we're busy with the conclusion last week, or yesterday, and yeah, yesterday. So you just so it will go either way, as long as you manage to acknowledge that. That was going to be very. So MLA citations consist of author and page number. Some of you indicated this, that you have to write the same name of, the name of the person. In most instances, we use the same name. I was asking, which are these that we refer to as secondary sources? When we talk about secondary sources, ladies and gentlemen, what is that? Which kind of sources are these?
Maybe documentaries, academic articles.
The question was, what are the secondary sources? What kind of sources are these?
The secondary sources. Can you repeat?
Secondary sources. When we talk about secondary sources, what are we referring to?
For this one, sir, I'll be cheating because it's right in front of my screen, whereby you are reading an article.
I like your sincerity, eh?
Whereby you are reading an article, and in that article, someone has quoted someone also, but you want to use that information, whereby you need to acknowledge both the original one as well as the one who quoted, and yes, just both. Yes, I think. But I didn't.
I'm so happy that you are so sincere. I left this information on the screen on purpose. Thank you so much. So when we talk about secondary sources, ladies and gentlemen, in some cases, the information that you use from one source may be quoted material from another source. For example, let's say you read a book written by Shkolokolo 2014. And then when you read that book or you read that article, you find that there's some information which was not written by me. I've quoted somebody there. And you are interested in using that information which was quoted by that other person. That is what we are referring to here. Like Tobias was indicating. And in this case, both the originator of the code and the source that you are looking at must get credit in the text. In other words, you acknowledge me for the information that I used, which was written by Kutsie in 2008. I'm just citing an example. So you acknowledge me and you acknowledge Kutsie. So we both get credit. Let's for instance, you are reading Smith's article, and in the article, Smith quotes Jones' work. That's exactly what I was explaining between me and Kutsie. I mean, me and you are reading my work, and when you read my work, you find that I've quoted Kutsie. Then you want to use Kutsie's work, which is within my work. That's exactly the same thing, that the example that I'm giving here. If you want to use Jones' ideas, you need to give credit to both the ideas, Jones and where you found the information, which is in this instance, is Smith's article. The article you are reading is written by Smith, but you get information which was written by Jones, which was quoted by Smith. Then you use both the information. You use that information. Then you have to give credit to both of them, Smith and Jones, because on the works cited page, cite Smith article because there are two in-text citation options. With Jones' name in the introductory phrase, I was saying there are two in-text citation options. With Jones' name in the introductory phrase, which means in his book, Conversations with Tennessee Williams, Robert Jones quotes Williams as saying, "The glass animals came to represent the fragile, delicate ties that must be broken, that you inevitably break when you try to fulfill yourself." Quoted in Smith 37. That's how you acknowledge that information which was written by Smith. As you found that information from Jones, Robert Jones. So that's how you acknowledge it. The second part of it, remember I said there are two in-text citations or options. So the second in part of it, without Jones' name in the introductory phase. One author recalls Williams as saying, "The glass animals came to represent the fragile, delicate ties that must be broken, that you inevitably break when you try to fulfill yourself." This is the second part of it. And on this one, the second one, there is no Jones name there. Robert Jones is not featuring anywhere. The only thing that we see here at the end is when you acknowledge Joe to say Jones as quoted in Smith 37. Within the sentence, we don't see Joe appearing there, Jones appearing there. So these are the two options that we have, that we can either use one of them. Citing works with no author credited. You recall, ladies and gentlemen, earlier on I indicated that in some instances, you find that the information, more especially online information, you find that it is difficult to get the author, not to mention the date. Perhaps the date is better, you can see it there. But the author, you find that there is no author there. So that information, when you use it, you find that it's difficult. How do you reference it because there's no author credited there. There's no author written there. Where no author is associated with the work to be cited, the first thing that appears on the works cited page, the title of the work is used in place of the author's name. So you look at the title of that particular work that you are reading there, which will assist you. So you take that title of the work and use it on the place of the author's name, because there's no name there. So when I read your work and I come across that information and I can see that this information is not yours, it's somebody's information. But however, you did not mention any name where you got this information, I will immediately understand that when I see the title being written there, oh, this information, there was no author's name there. So what do? I credit the what you call the title. And obviously, whoever wrote that thing, if that person comes across that information and read and find that I've used his or her own information, she will realize that no, this person has done due diligence and acknowledge the information by writing the title of the work. A long title can be shortened in the citation, but the first words of the title must be used to signal the correct source on the works cited page. So, for example, find that it is a long title, so you can try to make it short, but make sure that the words are well documented there, more especially the first ones. I just want to give you an example of that. How do we do that? For instance, the 3 storms that raged across the Midwest in January and February of 1978 are collectively known as the Blizzard of 1978. The Blizzard of 1978. So you're trying to shorten it. And when you look at the date in brackets, it's 1978 Ohio. So you're trying to make sure that you shorten the long title instead of writing the whole thing. So just put it in short. So the reader will understand that, oh, this information was found in this particular work. The example of MLA work cited page. Work cited: bullying and teasing. For example, No Laughing Matter, Scholastic 2016. And there is the electronic sources where this information came from. So this is how you try to make sure that you give me the whole information that I can be able to follow up in terms of verification of what you are where the information came from and who does it represent, and so on and so on. Technical communication, process and product, 7th edition, Pretense Hall 2012. There, the three guys there, Gerson, Sharon, and Stephen, sharing the same surname, are the author of which work in terms of title, technical communication, process and product, which is the 7th edition. That means there are other editions from 1 up to 6. Now this one is number 7. Then Pretense Hall 2012. So when we talk about the acknowledgement of these authors in terms of giving credit, we indicate all of them, and then we come up with indication of when was this written, and so on and so on. The other one, Parent Information Center, dyslexia, characteristics and coping strategies. Parents helping parents of women. Then you have tried to capture the topic in full for us to understand where this information is coming from. The next one is Tememan, John H. And the title is House of Mirrors. Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher, Papers on Language, volume 39, number 3. More especially, these ones are articles. Summer 2003, and then there is the electronic search that I can go through to check the validity of the information that you are giving me. Then after doing that, then I'll be happy to say the information you have indicated indeed is from these people or this electronic source. As well as this dictionary that is underneath, wherewithal, dictionary.com 2016, and so on and so on. When I go to that, I'll get the verification of that information that you have written there. Let us look at the core elements of MLA citation, Modern Language Association citation. There are 9 core elements to any works cited entry. So now I'm going to go through each of them in detail. Here is just a matter of mentioning them. These 9 elements. We're talking about the author, title of source, title of container, contributor, version, number, publisher, publication date, location, where is it located, and so on and so on. So later on, I'm going to dwell on them, so on each of them in detail, so that we have a proper understanding of these core elements, because they are very important, very important. So elements will be omitted from the work cited entry if it is not applicable to the work you are citing. So you'll have to eliminate it or omit it anyhow. Once all of the elements are found for the source that you are using, then you can put them together to form a citation. So that is the brief instruction I'm trying to give forward before we get to the actual discussion. Because here now I want to start to discuss each of those 9 elements, starting from the author. When we talk about the author, you have seen on the examples that I gave above, we have got a situation where we've got one author. We have got a situation where we have got 2 authors, sometimes 2, 3 authors, and so on and so on. So it's not only one author. So we are going to try to look at, when we talk about one author, what happens? When we talk about 2 authors, what happens? What are the examples? And so on and so on. So that you understand how do you go about when you are reading an article which is written by more than one person. When you use MLA style of referencing, what are you expected to do there? How do you reference? Do you use one and leave the others, and so on and so on? So we're going to look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the author is the person or persons responsible for writing the work. When you read that particular book, you read that particular article, journal, obviously you will come across where they talk about the author or authors. Then that's where you'll know if it's written by 1 or 2 or 3 people. Then that thing will stick to your mind to say, oh, okay, here I'm dealing with 1 author, here I'm dealing with 2 authors, and so on. Then the citation will look a little different depending on the number of authors. When you cite for 1 author, it won't be the same as when we cite for 2 authors, and so on and so on. It will differ a little bit. Now, let us look at the example of 1 author. Begin with the author's last name, followed by a comma. I don't remember who was that, but one of your colleagues was not sure whether we use a comma or a semicolon or what after the same name. But then here's the response that I'm giving. Begin with the author's last name. Last name. What is the last name, ladies and gentlemen? What are we talking about when we talk about the last name? Usually when we complete forms, wherever, they'll tell you, indicate your last name here. write your first names, first name or names, and then your your last name. When they talk about the last name, what is the last name?
It's the surname.
Ellen?
It's the surname, sir.
Oh, okay, okay. And Tando?
I also wanted to say the surname, sir.
Okay, perfect. That's very correct. So usually you find that you struggle if you are completed that form to say, what is the last name now? Are they referring, if I've got 2 or 3 names, are they referring to my last name in my three names, or my last name in my 2 names, and so on and so on? So it is definitely the surname. So you will start with that particular last name of yours, then followed by a comma. Then write the rest of the author's name. This is followed by a period. For instance, one author, Smith, comma, R. So this one now you're talking about one name. Sometimes we just abbreviate the names. So just write the full surname and then we abbreviate the names. If it's John R, you say just say JR and leave it at that. Now, when we talk about 2 authors, include the authors in the order they are represented in work. Very simple. When you read this particular book, there are 2 authors. One is Dube. Dube, M.E. The other one is Smango, or Smango G. Then, when now you are citing these people, don't change them around. If in the book the first author is Dube and then the second author is Smango, don't start with Smango, ladies and gentlemen, and then Dube. You are now jangling around the order of their name on how in the way they were written book. Start with the author according to how they are written in that particular book, whether it's a book or an article or whatever source. Get in mind, ladies and gentlemen, don't change them around. Stick to their order there. It will assist me even when I want to go and because when you change them, that little change of the order, it destroys a lot of things. It messes up the whole thing. But when you stick to the order that is there, it assists the reader. Even when I go to verify, I'll be able to pick it up that, this is the order, this is how these people are, and so on and so on. So it will be just like that. So please bear that in mind. And reverse as you do with one author. So it's difficult to if you jungle them up and down and so on and so on. Then following it with a comma and the word, and then give the second author's name in normal order. For example, 2 authors, Stanley, Claire, and Robert Jones. That's basically how it is. 3 or more authors, write the first author's last name, followed by a comma, and then write the rest of the author's name. Then write a comma after the first name and the words et al. Why do we do it that way? We're trying to make sure that perhaps you find that it will take time to write all these people that have written this article. So when you say et al, you are in a sense recognizing all of them, but you start with the very first author, and then the others, they will fall under et al. So in most instances, people don't want to be recognized as and all others. They just want to be named. But in writing, we're allowed to do that. I was still talking about the no author. And as I was saying, for some works, there may not be a person's name listed. In that instance, what do we do? You can use the name of an editor if it is there, or somebody who translated the work. You find that some material that you're using is written in a particular language. Perhaps it is written in Greek or French or whatever language. Now you have to, somebody translated that into English, for example. So that person who translated, you can use that person's name to acknowledge the work that is there. Or an organization that has done the work and the organization's name is there. You can use that name of an organization to acknowledge that work which is done. And for these types of sources, follow the examples below that I'm going to give you to see how this thing is done. Editor, translator, performer, etc., etc. Write the last name followed by a comma, and then the first name followed by a comma, and their connection to the text. For example, if there's no author, when you check that work has got 3 people who have performed the work. There's an editor, there's a translator there is a performer there, and so on and so on. So you will start with the name of the editor, comes the comma, comes the name of the translator, and then comes the performer. Then briefly you indicate the connection to the text. Who is doing what in the text? Who did what in that? Obviously, they will have indicated in brief. So and so edited the work. So and so translated the work. Performer, so and so performed what, and so on and so on. So that will be clearly indicated there in the text. Should be also be reflected in your work. If there is more than one name, follow the rules of more than one author. For example, one person, Wingfield, Tom. What did he do? Editor. That's briefly the connection to the text. What he did, he was an editor. If there are 2 people, Rickman Allen and Emma Watson, what did this person do? Performer or performers. They were performers, all of them. 3 or more, Moore, Cindy, et al. Because when there are 3 or more, now you can't mention all of them. That's why now we come to the issue of the issue of et al. What did they do? They were translators. So this is how you acknowledge them in that way. That this information that I got it from these people. Who are they? They are performers, they are translators, they are editors, and so on and so on. If it is an organization, remember I mentioned even the organization up there. Some work belongs to an organization, not an individual. It will be written by a person or a group of people on behalf of the organization. Then the organization owns that particular work. So the individual does not hold the title of being the owner or the author, but it's the organization. Works may be created by a corporation, institution, or association, then it becomes they become the owner. Government agency, for example, or any other kind of organization. Most of the work of government, which are written by government and published on this. When you read them, they don't mention people who wrote that particular document, but they're talking about government departments or government communication and so on and so on. So those agencies, they act on behalf of the authors. Why? Because whoever wrote in terms of being an individual writer was writing on behalf of government. So you are an employee of government, then you have to to write whatever is needed, then it belongs to government. Then government becomes the owner as an organization. So when you quote that particular information from those documents which are from government, you are going to use government as the owner or the author of that particular information or that particular document or policy or whatever it might be. Then there's a username. Online usernames are mostly given like regular author names. Then, for example, organizations like United Nations, username at Grammar, Girl, and so on and so on. So there are different kinds of sources that can be used to access whatever information that you want from government. For example, when we want to use government information or government documents, so say for example, we want to check on the policies, you go to the website of a particular department where you want information from. Then on their website, talk about documents, the year in which it was written, and so on and so on. So you're able to use it. There are page numbers there. If you want to talk about a particular Bill of Rights, for example, you'll go and get a page, and then and so on and so on. Then you're able to do that. Title of a source. The title of a source is a required component of creating the MLA citation. It's a required component of creating the MLA citation. You have seen way back there when I indicated that in some instances where there's no author, you might use the title, but if it's so short, so long, try to shorten it, like we have seen there. Now, the formatting of the title is important so that your reader will know instantly what type of source you are talking about. You must assist the reader to pick that up, what kind of source you're talking about. If a source is self-contained, then it is written in italics. So this is one of the strategies that will assist you to pick it up that, oh, okay, this source that I'm looking at now is how do I see it? Because it's written in italics. If a source is part of a larger work, then it will be formatted with quotation marks surrounding it and so on and so on. So you're able to pick it up. Now, the title in italics are used for big things in most instances. These are things that stand alone by themselves as a unit. When we talk about big movies, television series are written in italics in most instances. So they are standalones. And when you look in the content in the content, you'll see them there. Then you are able to differentiate all these things. So they help you to differentiate them from others. Many times, these types of sources are listed as the container. If it is the only source, then it can be listed here. For example, New York Times, Pride and Prejudice, the Rose of Emily, the Writing Center, Group Parental Care, and so on and so on. So these are just some few examples of this listing here. And then sometimes we have titles in quotation marks. These are for smaller things that are often within the larger works. And therefore, the names of chapters, web pages, articles, or particular episodes of a television show are all in quotation marks. So they are put inside the quotation marks for that particular reason. So always, when you see that, you realize that, okay, it means these titles are written within the quotation marks. Titles are given, so you will identify these titles there, and they're written in full, so that you will be able to identify the source. In other words, you consistently make sure that you write in capital letters and punctuate where necessary. For example, when we speak, we talk of the surnames of people, the names of people, last name of people. You cannot write somebody's name with all small letters. You have to capitalize. You write in capital letter the first letter of a surname, and then you put a comma where it's necessary, like we have seen when we're writing this, citing the names of different authors. The other one is title of a container. The other element, title of a container. When a source that is being documented is part of a larger source, then the larger source is considered the container that holds the source. Sorry. That's why we refer to it as a title of a container or a container. Because the larger source is considered the container that holds the source. So this part of the larger source is there. And the title of this container is normally italicized. So it's written in italic, and then you'll be able to identify it and see it that way. For example, typical containers are a book. When you look at a book, it contains quite a lot of information. In most instances, a book, how is a book, let me just pause it and put it back to you. How is a book constituted? What makes up a book, ladies and gentlemen, in other words? What are the things that makes up a book? Because a book's not written from page 1 up to the last page without divisions there. It is divided. How is the book divided? Then what you're going to find there in the on the first one, what things are there in the book? The divisions of a book. I see some skeletons there. Can you hear me? Listen.
I hardly hear
Am I
you.
audible?
I hardly hear you.
Now can you hear me now?
You are breaking so much.
Even now I'm breaking, né?
Yeah, you are better now.
Yeah, I was saying, when you look at a book, what constitutes a book? What are the things that are the divisions of a book?
All right, thanks. In a book, you get the headings, subheadings, you get paragraphs according to the headings, subheadings. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm connected to another one also.
Thank
now.
you, Tobisi. Other things which are there that makes up a book. What is there in a book?
I would say the title of a book, maybe the day of when it was published, and yes, the abstract, and maybe a table of contents.
Any additions, Mangele? What can you add on what Seppo and I mean what Tobis and Portia said?
There's a cover page, table of content, and a list of reference at the back. Yeah.
Ntando, additions?
I think also there's a conclusion, there's a glossary sometimes. Yeah.
Oluetu, what can you add? All right. What I was looking for is what you said, but more so are chapters. A book consists of chapters. There is no book which is you write from the page 1 up to the last page without dividing it. You have to divide that book into chapters. So typical containers are books website, journal, magazine, newspapers, television series, anthologies. All of these, we refer to them as containers. Then be careful when distinguishing between a web page and a website. What is a web page? So exciting. What is a web page? And what is a website? What is the difference between the two? This one is your stuff. What is a web page? What is a website? What is the difference between the two?
A web page is it's a single page on the website. Then a website is a collection of web pages.
Okay. Anyone else? Do you concur with the explanation given by Ellen? Or you've got something to add on top of that? We need to differentiate these two, ladies and gentlemen. It's very critical for us to differentiate them because they're not the same. So you have to be very careful on that. For example, on the school's website, Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute is the name of the website. And the Writing Center is the name of a particular page on the website. That's exactly what Ellen was explaining. So we need to differentiate these two because they are not the same. So when you are citing, it might confuse you. So we have to make sure we understand this thing very well. This is a second type of author spot. So if you have already included the editor as the author, then do not include it here. That's the contributor we're talking about here. That's the next part, the contributor. So this is the type of an author spot. So for example, you find that you have used the editor as the author. So when it comes to the contributor, contributors are the people who have contributed something on the work done, the work that you have read, or either it's an article or it's a book. People have contributed there. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some books written by many people who contributed through chapters. You find that the book has got sorry, the book consists of 10 chapters, for example, and you find that people have contributed there. One chapter has been written by 2 people, for example, so another chapter by 1 person, and so on and so on. So those people, they must be acknowledged. But then the editor, if he's the author there, he's not included here in the contributor. List these names in a normal order. For example, first name, last name. Common descriptions of contributors are adapted by, directed by, edited by, illustrated by. Some instances they are not contributing in terms of writing on the chapters, but you find that an introduction was written by someone. Then the book was translated by someone. The book was edited by someone else, and so on and so on. These are the contributors. They're the people who have done some work in terms of that particular work which is there. So in most instances, we have to differentiate and try to acknowledge all these people one by one, as per the work which has been done by them. And that becomes so necessary. If the source indicates that, now is the version, I'm sorry. If the source says that, indicates that it is from a version other than the original, then write this information here. Common words to indicate version are in edition, version or cut, and so on and so on. Now, the number. Some sources may be part of a numbered sequence. If so, indicate the volume and number of the case of a television categorized according to that version that you are using the information from. Make sure to use the abbreviations for volume and number when writing out this information. For instance, a source in volume 64, number 1, would look like volume 64, number 1. This indication tells us that, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the only first and the last volume that we are seeing here. There is still going to be other volumes, and number 1 is the first one. There will be number 2, number 3, and so on and so on. So when you indicate this, it will assist somebody who's going to read volume number 2 to know that there is volume number 1, and so on and so on. So you have to abbreviate it that way, and then the reader will understand and be able to follow that up. Now there is a publisher. A publisher. The publisher of a work is the organization or a person primarily responsible for paying for the work and making sure that it was produced. When you write a particular book, you send it to the publisher for the publisher to publish. And then when it is published, they are the ones who are going to pay you your dues, and then you get your money and so on and so on. And in this section, list the publisher only and not the location of the publisher. For example, here at home, we have got quite a number of publishers like your Skalk, Van Skalk. You have got so many of them that my mind is not picking them up now. So you have to recognize that particular publisher and mention it there, and that is required. Book publishers are often found on the title page or the backside of the title page. So immediately you open the book on the first pages. That's where you find these publishers listed there. Website publishers or sponsors are usually found by looking to the right of the copyright. Then you see who published that thing, that particular information, that particular material that you have used, the source that you've used. Then there is what we call publication, the publication date. The publication date is the date in which the source was printed. That is the date in which the source was printed. For this section, it includes all the material that is given, the month, the year, the seasons, and so on and so on. If there are 2 dates, give the one that is most relevant to the text or source. So you go to the nearest one. There are some examples that I've given there that you can look at. In the rare instance where no date is available for an online source, put the date you access the web source at the end of the citation. It is always there. So you can use that date when if the date is not available on an online source. It happens sometimes. Then there is what we call location. Location. Location depends on the type of source that you are using. For example, for print sources, include the inclusive page numbers. For online sources, include the URL or DOI. And articles, DOI is the digital object identifier. That's abbreviated as DOI. We are referring to the digital object identifier. This is like an ISBN for a book, that DOI. So because it is online, we refer to it as the digital object identifier. And this is assigned to only that article. It will be formatted with this one, HTTP. You are used to this one. So usually you find this as the assisting us to identify that. This is the example of online sources that you will always see there. And works cited page formatting. The works cited page should begin on a new page following the paper. So you make sure to add the hanging index to all entries and alphabetize sources by the first item, such as author's last name and the title, if no author's name is there, is given. In other words, you will deal much with this when we do the listing of the references, where how do we enlist these sources in terms of alphabetical order and so on. So this is what we intended to do tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so sorry about the network that sometimes I was audible, sometimes I was not audible. But slides will be circulated, then we'll be able at least to catch up with that. So if there are some questions after you have seen the slides, we can always revert back and look at them when we meet next time. So time will be available. I'm hoping by then we'll have better network. Otherwise, this brings us to the end of our discussion for tonight.